myself again. But it's the only...
Good evening, it's Thursday night. Welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith, and I'm joined as always by John Gibson and Malcolm MacDonald. Good evening, lads.
Hi guys. Hiya, John.
Good to see you. And a great result last night. Newcastle 5, Leeds 2, four goals for Mickey Quinn, and what a great start for Mickey. 4 goals in the number 9 shirt. Yes, okay. It's I'm looking back on yesteryear, lads, wishing that had been the score, but unfortunately it was 5-2 the other way. I drew the line at starting the show at 5-2 tonight, lads, as well, because I didn't want to rub salt in the wounds. But Malcolm, I suppose in one way we saw it coming, but then as the game progressed, I don't. It's weird. It was like a roller coaster of a match. I dare say with half an hour to go, Newcastle fans would have been quite happy with the situation, and then we get to 2-2. It looks as if we've got a valuable point in the bag against a free scoring Leeds, a team that goes for the jugular. But then a lapse in concentration, from us pressing forward leads to Leeds going 3-2 up. After that, it was just as if the confidence was zipping out of the lads, and I don't think 5-2 was a reflection on the game, but that was the scoreline. We've got to grin and bear it and move on to the next game. But it was disappointing, and I suppose I predicted a 2-2 draw last night. And you were
correct up until 15 minutes from the end.
I was feeling quite comfortable. We did our live podcast. We had a couple of Leeds fans on with us as well. One of the Leeds fans predicted a 4-2 win for Leeds. We all thought there was going to be goals in the game, but I don't think any of us could have seen 5 going past Carl Darlow.
No, but mind, I wouldn't fault him at all last night, I don't think. To continue going on with regards to Leeds, I just want to go back to the West Brom game on last Saturday. That West Brom, they were second bottom at the table when it all started on Saturday, and I can just picture the sort of imaginary team talk before the game. Right, lads. Okay, look, let's get an early goal, and then from there we're going to lead the opposition into a full sense of security by letting them have the ball for an hour, and that's pretty much what happened. And I think, okay, so you've scored a goal. Come on, you're playing at home. Get on the ball. Go and play some stuff. And they allowed West Brom completely into the game, and then yesterday, I thought surely we've got to see a real tightening up of things. That from between Saturday and today, that they must have been working on the training ground to tighten up defensively, and it was even worse. And I think, come on, Steve Bruce, you were a centre half with one of the great sides of this country since the war. Why aren't you seeing what isn't happening out on the pitch? You must have taken it for granted at Manchester United. You must have realised that was so much of the strength that Manchester United showed, that discipline at the back, and you're not instilling it here. And I just watched last night, and I was incredulous at the awful defending that I was seeing from so many individuals. They've gone out, they've bought a left back. He can't defend and he can't get forward. And I think, well, why have you got him in? Surely, if I'm seeing that in just a very few games that he's played in. Why hasn't somebody seen that before Newcastle United made him a Newcastle player? And I'm just getting to a point where I don't understand some of the nonsense that I'm actually witnessing, and yet Newcastle, they're scoring goals. So come on, get the defence sorted out. Newcastle are scoring goals. Help them on that. Make those goals winning goals. But it ain't happening.
There's a lots of questions coming in tonight. We'll try and get through as many as we can, and lots of questions to be asked. John, just your initial opinion on last night's game and the collapse that saw Leeds beat Newcastle 5-2.
Yeah, to be truthful, I don't know where to start, Steve, because I'm absolutely furious. Bless you as a fan, giving them the slight benefit of the doubt to start with top of the programme. I think they were absolutely atrocious. And what I want to bear in mind, so many people have gone on today about how good Leeds are generally, not talking just about last night, this attacking side, etc., etc. Let's get this into perspective. This Leeds side had lost 4 of their last 6 games. They'd won only 1 at home. Yes, they swarm all over you like a load of bees. There's absolutely no question. But they can't defend at the back on set pieces. That's how we got our second goal. And streetwise sides see these boys off. They absorb like a sponge when they come at you, and then the counter hit them and see them off. That's why they've lost 4 of the last 6. That's why West Ham went there, give them a goal start, and beat them. We were in absolute disgrace. We were outplayed. We went ahead against the run of play. They went 2-1 up. We scored because they can't defend set pieces against the run of play. And then the last 3 goals, Longstaff loses the ball in his own penalty area, which is criminal, to set up the 3rd goal. And the 4th and 5th goal are scored when we have corners and Leeds are defending in their own box. They break on us and score. How you wouldn't see that from a Sunday League side? You would, if you saw that. If I'd seen that defending on Gateshead, I would have gone crackers, and we were non-league side. It was an absolute utter disgrace, and I agree with what the point that's been made by Malcolm. For a start, this kid, bless him, that plays left back, Lewis. He was a young boy in the Norwich side that was relegated last season. And I look at him now, and he hasn't learned anything about the art of defending whatsoever. And when you link that into sloppy passing, which is what you showed last night, you begin to wonder where we're going with this one. And as for Sean Longstaff, bless him, you've got to get him out of there for Fulham, because he looks a pale shot. Never mind having a superstar agent that might get him a good deal at Newcastle or a good deal elsewhere. He's lucky to be here. The way he's playing at the moment, he is playing poorly. And he made at least 2 monumental mistakes that wouldn't be made at non-league level last night. I'm absolutely furious. I thought we were pathetic.
You wouldn't get a game for Dunstan, to be fair, at the moment, Sean Longstaff. He's
absolutely not.
Completely
absolutely
out,
not.
Completely out of his depth.
Are you trying to sign Lewis to play left back as well, mate?
Definitely no. We're top of the league. We've got no worries.
Do you fancy Joe Linton, who passed the ball more to the opposition last night than he did to his own team?
Only if he's going to sell the domino card.
Now I've got that rant off my chest. I feel a lot better.
I bet you do. We'll take a question from Michael Hurst. He says, Mal, Gibbo, how are you? Question for you both. Do you think Bruce knows his best 11 or formation? Malcolm?
I don't think he does know. In fact, I'm struggling to work out what he does know. Because I see pandemonium in black and white out on the pitch. Steve Bruce has excuse after excuse after excuse. Everybody is suffering by COVID-19. It's making it all very difficult with lockdown and what have you. But that doesn't that doesn't give players permission to be totally and utterly sloppy and just play badly. And I'm seeing it happen from one game to the next, and Steve Bruce doesn't seem to be doing anything about it. And if he isn't, then I wonder, is he not seeing it? And I've got a feeling that he's not, because the game against West Brom, Newcastle might have won it 2-0, but by heavens, you can't say that it was a good performance. Not by any stretch of the imagination. It wasn't. And if West Brom had any finishing touch at all, they probably would have got themselves back into the game, or even gone and won it before Newcastle did. And so I listened to Steve Bruce, and to be honest, I finish up shaking my head, thinking, "Come on, Steve! Whatever it is you're watching, it's entirely different to what I'm seeing." And you just mentioned that you're with me on what I've been saying, John. You know, are you taking Steve Bruce seriously at the moment?
Well, I mean, you're absolutely right what you're saying, Marlon. I look at it, and the question from the gentleman was, does he know what his best side is? May I suggest that when you play Jacob Murphy as an orthodox right back, as he did for a period last evening in the first half, this guy come on against West Brom and produced a super cross out of the blue to get us out of jail for Gale's header,
and it was
to win the game. And he's a winger who is trying to establish a future for himself in Newcastle, and his next few months will decide whether he's got a future or not. And then you've got him playing left back, right back, running towards his own goal and trying to get in tackles. They had a field day down their left side in the first half, before Murphy was changed, because he's not in that position. And you don't know, and you don't know your system. Do you want to play with a 5 at the back? Do you want to play with a flat 4? You play with a flat 4 when you're feeling slightly confident, and the minute you think you're going to take in water, you revert to a 5. And it is not the way forward. And I don't think at the moment we know what side's going to be picked. Can you guess what the side's going to be against Fulham? Can you guess what the back will be, whether it'll be a 5 or a 4? Can you guess anything apart from Darlow will start and Wilson will start? What else can you guess? And it is, at the moment, I'm afraid, an awful mess in what always just one step away from disaster. That's the feeling Newcastle fans have, and I understand that, being a fan myself.
Winning against West Brom and Crystal Palace, Malcolm, I'm sometimes, I never managed at that level. I managed at Sunday League level, but I always went with the adage of don't change a winning team and let the opposition worry about you. Don't worry about the opposition. I found last night's team selection staggering when he dropped 4 players, including Almiron, Ritchie, and Shelvey, who'd all actually played quite well in the win. Previously. So for me, I didn't understand the team selection. I just found it baffling.
No, this is what I'm saying, Steve. I don't understand at all what it is that he's doing. I really don't understand it. And usually, having played the game and been and managed it and been involved all my life, I can usually see reasons and as to why these decisions are made. I can't work Steve Bruce out at all. I really cannot. I can't why would he do that? Why would he make those changes? If you've got a winning side, and as you say, Steve, stick with it. Because what you want them to do, and I think I was talking about this prior to the West Brom game, that you get one win and then 2 wins and 3 wins, and all of a sudden you start to fly. You know, the confidence is sky high, and and so on. And so you get onto a winning run, and you almost become unbeatable. Liverpool did that last season, and we've seen other sides. They do it in smaller runs, smaller than Liverpool's of last season, and that's what you're looking for. You need to put some 2 or 3 or 4 of those runs together over a season, and that takes relegation away. And there was the perfect opportunity. West Brom, Leeds, Fulham, all below Newcastle in the table, and he starts messing about. 4 changes last night. Why? For what purpose? Playing players out of position as well. And he can talk COVID all he likes, but how many players are in that club, for heaven's sake? And there are enough players to play players in their proper positions and not making do. For heaven's sake, this is the Premiership. You know, it's not the Wearside League. And so I'm looking for that bit of confident selection. Players are looking for that as well, because that builds their confidence. They want to, if they feel that they've played well and aren't playing the next game, then they think, oh, what the hell's going on? You know, and you start to get all sorts of problems in the dressing room. And I don't know of any that are going on, but I just have the feeling that there are people mumbling and groaning and about what's actually happening. They can't be happy with it. Players like simplicity, and Steve Bruce isn't doing the simple things at the moment. And if once you've got a side that is on a good run, or it's won a game, let's say it's won a game, you want a continuity. You don't suddenly change the cast. I just don't get it. I really don't. You know, you've got to show faith to players who are having a good game. And John, you picked out Murphy, and absolutely right to do so, because that was a dream cross. It's one of the best crosses I've seen for years. And everybody should be behind the lad saying, come on now. We want more of that from you, more. So you play him in the right position. You don't suddenly stick him 40 yards behind. And that's where I just don't see the sense of it. I really do not see the sense of it all. And it's happening over and over and over again, all of the while. And I'm just bemused and confused about it. And if I'm bemused and confused, what's it like in the dressing room?
Yeah, John, lots of questions coming in there. One on the screen there, John. In your experience, have you seen another Newcastle manager with so little tactical awareness? Barry thinks that Lewis of last season has had his confidence destroyed by Steve Bruce.
Well, there's a point. Have I seen Newcastle managers so tactically inept, if you like? Well, under Mike Ashley, unfortunately, yes. Joe Kinnear and Steve McClaren jumps amazingly to mind. But of course, these are Ashley appointments. I think Yes, Benitez has taken some criticism since he left because he went to China, because his football wasn't the entertainers of Kevin Keegan, etc. But the one thing you could never accuse Rafa Benitez of being is tactically inept. He was very, very shrewd, and when he sent out a side that wasn't going to be taken apart, it wasn't taken apart, unlike us last night. And he was pushing very much to get more offensive players into the club, like when Rondon was signed, etc. And that irritated Mike Ashley, which is why when his contract was up, there was never a cat and hell's chance that it was going to be extended, because it wasn't a comfortable existence for Mike Ashley. We are at the moment in a terrible situation. And you know what frightens me really, guys, is that after we play Fulham on Saturday, and my Jove, that's an important 3-pointer, even more so after what happened at Leeds. They've got to beat them. And why? But when you look at Christmas and New Year, the 5 games coming up are going to decide our destiny for the full season, because they are bookended by our 2 appearances in the domestic cups. It starts at Brentford in the quarterfinal of the League Cup to try to get to Wembley, and it ends with we're in the FA Cup against Arsenal. And in between, we have 3 league matches against Man City, against Liverpool, and against Leicester, who are 4th top. The previous champions, the current champions, and the 4th top. How many points are we going to get out of those 3 matches? And are we going to still be in the 2 domestic cups, or are we going to be out both the domestic cups? That is the programme for Steve Bruce and Newcastle United after Fulham. Does that tell you 2 guys that we need to beat Fulham, for goodness sake, to
Absolutely.
go in with some sort of cushion?
Yeah. Couldn't agree more, John. Couldn't agree more. But you have a look, and Fulham they're going to come up to St James Park on the back of a really good result and a good performance, and so that their confidence is high. I bet their side's not suffered 4 changes when we see them on Saturday evening.
I think the big question from a lot of the supporters is about ASM. We've heard rumours prior to the Crystal Palace match that there was some kind of disagreement, bust up, call it what you like, between him and Steve Bruce. We haven't seen him since. Been no explanation. Supporters could probably be thinking that it's down to COVID. Maybe he was one of the infected players, and maybe he's self-isolating. But we've heard absolutely nothing. Rumours today that ASM has got on a plane, a private jet, and flown back to France. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But Malcolm, in your experience, as a former player and as a former manager, there's no smoke without fire when these stories start to circulate. Fans don't make them up. Journalists don't make them up. There's usually a little bit of truth in it. So have we got problems with the enigmatic ASM who's just signed a new deal?
Yeah, I'm sure of it. And there will be people talking to his agent, and there's a number of clubs that would like to have him on their staff. That's for sure. And I think that he is one of those types of characters where if he's left out of one game, he's going to go into a moody for a month, and maybe longer. So you have to manage him very, very carefully. But what doesn't help is when you play him out of position. Somebody with his talent, he needs to play wide on the left. That's where he's strongest. That's from where he does all the damage that he can. So don't start playing him in the middle, for heaven's sake. He looked absolutely dreadful. He looked uncomfortable when he was playing in the middle. And so why do it? Why do it? It's almost a suicidal move for me. and I really do not understand why people do it.
Yeah, it is strange. ASM, John, I mean, have you had any inside knowledge on what's going on with him? Because he's just disappeared.
Yeah, it's a great worry, because if we go X number of weeks back, Steve, he was our main hope. Some would say going forward, apart from Will, our only hope. He got us up the field quickly. He terrified people when he was on the hoof. And nobody knew what he was doing next. Sometimes even he didn't know what he was doing next, but he was that threat. Then we had the situation when he went out of the team. It was leaked into the press that he said injured. He was injured in a training situation, and he said he was injured. Then it was leaked into the press that, in fact, whether he was injured or not, the likelihood he was going to be dropped for that game. And from then on, we haven't seen him. Now, is that the injury continuing to dictate the situation? Is it COVID? It's very convenient at the moment that we've got this wall of silence with COVID, where we're not allowed to ask, or even if we ask, we're not going to be told who's got what and why. And so he's been missing, like Lascelles has been missing, Manquillo has been missing, etc., etc. And why is that the case? It is very worrying with Maximum, because he just signed a 6-year deal. And after that, if you remember, his form just dropped like off the end of the White Cliffs of Dover. It was horrendous. And he is so important to us. He's so temperamental that we know that if the wind changes direction, so can his mood. Is he being handled correctly? Because he is the type of player you must have on your side, because he gives us something different. And we are so predictable, it's horrendous. We are so predictable. We will never surprise any side we're playing. You know what I mean, Malcolm? They know what we are going to do. We are a team of no surprises. We are a team of no surprises. And the thing that wins matches is when you do the unexpected. We are incapable of doing the unexpected. Maximum is on a good day. And there's a concern there until he comes back, and not just comes back, but does the business. Because he could be selected against Fulham tomorrow, and he would have to play if he was fit, because he's paid by Newcastle United. But that doesn't mean he'll go out on that pitch with the right attitude if there's something behind the scenes that we know nothing about. So until I see him on that pitch and bouncing like when he's at his best, I'm going to be concerned. Because we've gone from a guy who was given a 6-year contract so that we could head off all the people who want to sign him, to a guy that on current form is not good enough to be in the side. What's going on there?
Malcolm, quick question there from Andrew Martin, because I know we lose questions because there's so many come in and we don't always get time to answer them all. Do you keep in touch with Stan Bulls, asks Andrew?
No, not really. The guy who is very much in contact with Stan Bowles is Don Shanks, and I was with Don at we were both players at Fulham and at Luton before I joined Newcastle, and he and the two of them have become great mates. But that was from the time that they were playing together in the QPR side. But Stan, he keeps himself to himself most of the time.
Yeah, okay. We did have an email this week, and I did share it with John, and it's from Gary Thwaites, and I'll read it to you. It says, Top show, boys. As I watch from Australia, I don't see it live to ask a question, but I'd love to hear any insights John has, and possibly Malcolm, on Wyn Davies next week, which of course is this week. My dad used to see him in the Shepherd and Shepherdess at Beamish at times, and he used to talk about how he used to chat to fans. I would be interested in hearing more about him, if possible. Yours, Gary Thwaites. So thanks for that, Gary, and great to know that we're reaching the other side of the world with the shows. Malcolm, come to you first. Wyn Davies.
Well, he and Pop Robson struck up quite a partnership, I have to say. Quite the opposite as players, but that's often a great partnership. And it really worked well between them. There is one particular story, and this was actually told to me by Joe Harvey, and I still don't really know whether he was exaggerating or not. But he told me that when Wyn Davies left Wales and he joined Bolton to start with, he arrived at Bolton and could hardly understand a word of English, and was speaking the Welsh tongue, and so Bolton had to arrange for him to actually learn English before he could even take part in any team meeting or anything like that. Bless him, but he certainly speaks English well enough over the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Okay, John,
that's a
what
good
about
point you make, Malcolm. Yeah, it's a good point Malcolm makes about Big Wyn and the Welsh voice now, because why Joe would tell that story, Malcolm, is that when Big Wyn signed for us to go into the European First Cup winning side, Mal, I remember when Joe went down to sign him at Bolton, and he went down with Wilf Taylor, who remember, man, one of the directors at Newcastle at the time. And the reason why we wanted to sign him is because when Joe Harvey's side won the second division championship, they clinched it up here against Bolton, and the two guys that were ripping sides apart for Bolton were Wyn Davies and Franny Lee, who later went to Man City and did everything he did there. Wyn Davies was the man that terrified Joe Harvey that might stop us going up. So he said to John McGrath, our centre-half, listen, hey, big man, come over here. This big Wyn Davies is like a totem pole. He's an absolute disgrace. He kills sides. He's a killer in the air. But I'll tell you one thing, Bunny lad, you can't run without legs. Remember that and get stuck into Big Wyn. In other words, take them off by the stocking tops. Big Wyn destroyed us in the first quarter of an hour, hit the bar twice with headers, etc., etc. Then he got taken out by Big McGrath at the stocking tops and hobbled for the rest of the game. But why Joe said that is because he loved him that much and realised what a talent he was, and he went and signed him. And he told us the tale afterwards, and it was verified by Wyn when I asked Wyn, that when they went down to Bolton and did the deal with Wyn, Wyn said to them, to Joe Harvey and Wilf Taylor, he said, excuse me, boys, he said, my mother is standing in a telephone kiosk at the end of the street in Carnarvon, and I went to that house later and up the hill from the castle in Carnarvon, at the end of the street's a telephone box, and his mother, who wasn't on the phone, was standing in the telephone box in Carnarvon waiting for the phone to ring. And he said, can I phone her before I sign? And Joe said, of course you can, my lad, of course you can, anything you want. So he phones this telephone kiosk in Carnarvon, and his mother picks up the phone, and he proceeds to talk to his mother in Welsh about the deal he's had. Now, Joe and Wilf Taylor are absolutely flat. What the hell is he talking about? They thought they were in Europe before the First Cup with his foreign language. And is he saying that this is a duff deal, or should I ask for more money, mother, or whatever? But he came off that. He he signed and he joined us. And of course, I mean, the amazing thing is, Malcolm said, really him and Pop. Yes, Bob Munger scored a hat trick in the final over 2 legs against Luis Pestosa, and that will always be the abiding memory of the Fairs Cup. But one of the reasons we won the Fairs Cup, perhaps a major reason, is little and large up front. Big Win Davies with Pop Robson, Fee Hoffman scoring all the goals. And I always remember talking to a few of the central defenders that played against us in that Fairs Cup run. And they said to me in sort of broken English, they said, excuse me, but isn't this game called football? Football? But you do not play with the foot. You play with the head. We don't understand that. And he crucified them upstairs. In the first division, not so effective as that. Didn't score a pile of goals like our legendary number 9s, the fella sitting to my right there in Shearer and Ward Jackie. Didn't score a pile of goals, but was dangerous. But in Europe, where they weren't used to headers of them like him, he was dynamite. And we won the cup because Big Win was there. And he left us, and it was good enough to play for Man City and Man United fleetingly, which isn't bad.
Mm-hmm.
John, a question on the screen there from Tim. He's asked this a couple of times and I've missed it each week, but got it today. Recollections of lunches in the late 70s at the Swallow Hotel, John. He was a young waiter at the hotel when you were doing them. He said he would often like the Havanas for a great tip. Lovely bloke.
Well, without embarrassing Soups, who's sitting there, we used to meet at the Swallow to do the Malcolm MacDonald column, which is still going today. So either the Chronicle don't recognise two old duffers when they see them, or we're quite good. But we're still employed by the Chronicle today. We used to meet there for lunch, to have a liquid lunch often, as well as a food lunch, and we would always have a cigar to round off the afternoon. And I remember, without embarrassing Malcolm too much, that when I lost my little lad at 11 weeks old, and I met Malcolm the Saturday after that for lunch in the close season to do a column, and Malcolm, God bless him, had arranged that he knew I needed to relax and recover from what I had, and he arranged with the waiters, it might be this guy, that every time you saw the bottle of white wine tipped upside down in the ice bucket, not to ask if we wanted a drink, just to refill it. And we started the meal at 12 o'clock. We were asked to leave the restaurant and sit in the bar area at 4 o'clock so they could sort out the restaurant for the evening meals. And when the evening meals we started at 8 o'clock, we went back in there. The office were making frantic phone calls to the Swallow Hotel from 10 o'clock that night onwards to see if I'd been taken over by the Moonies or whatever was happening, because I hadn't appeared back in the office. And that's what friendship is all about, and that's the friendship that Malcolm gave me at a bad old time in my life. And we've had a lot of good friendships and a lot of stuff since. But yes, God bless that gentleman that's wrote in there. If he was the one lighting the cigars, he's the boy for me. And he might recall that particular Saturday when it was quite a long session and a glorious session, and got my spirits up at a very bad time in my life.
Yeah.
By the way, the dogs have gone out again, Steve, because Malcolm's gone chasing them.
We did talk about this pre-match, and I said I thought he would go the full show, but he managed to get 40 minutes in, and then he's had his computer problems, so I'm sure he'll rejoin us. Big shout out to newworkwear.com, specialists in the supply and branding of clothing for the workplace, who sponsor the StreamYard application, and qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend in Newcastle, and other items as well, including our t-shirts, which you can get from newcastlelegends.com. You can also buy the NUFC Matters calendar, which all proceeds will go to the food bank. And Malcolm was going to model this, but he's gone off to let the dog out. So we've also got the Supermac t-shirts and the Supermac mugs. Nice little Christmas box for anybody who fancies that. Again, you can get them on NewcastleLegends.com. Be quick though, the postal service is an absolute nightmare at the minute. Second class has taken about 7 days, it seems. So COVID is even affecting our beloved postal service, which is a bit of a nightmare. And obviously next week is Christmas Eve. We will not be doing a live show next week, but we've set up a couple of absolute classic shows for you on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve, and over the winter break. And one of them will be this, which we recorded yesterday. It's a wonderful trip down memory lane with John and Malcolm, and that covers the road to Wembley in 1976, where we'll be looking back at that cup run, which took us to the Twin Towers and facing Manchester City. And John and Malcolm give us their recollections. We also did one a couple of 2 weeks ago now, looking back at Malcolm's England career. So they'll be played, and you can find them on playlists. They're all set as premieres. We've also done a few shows with some of the regular panellists looking at their dream teams. So it just gives us all a little bit of time off. And today I recorded one with Liam Kennedy, picking his top 9 number 9s of the last 30 years. So I'm sure that one will cause a little bit of controversy, John, because when you look at it, Alan Shearer had that number 9 shirt for a considerable amount of time. So when you think about it, there's not as many as you would think, and I think it's just a case of getting them in order. The order is what people always disagree with. I think we all know that Alan's going to be top, but it's who fights it out in the other positions, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We've had a lot of number 9s, but not a lot of great number 9s. Joe Linton and Josselou jumped to mind. I think in my living memory, which is longer than most people because of my age, 3 always stand out, which is Alan Shearer, who's my number 1, and there's Jackie Milburn, Supermac. I'm certain that if we were able to actually have any personal recollections, that Hughie Gallagher would make a top 4. But he's back to 1927 when we last won the league, etc. But quite phenomenal. 5'5", scoring a pile of goals, skipping the side that won the league and was top goal scorer at the time. He would have come into it, but can't. But yeah, and it's fun. That's what I love about it, because it's no one's correct and no one's incorrect. It's all a matter of opinion, and that is great fun. And it is great fun around the festive time to sit down and spark off a discussion, normally in the pub, because it can last all night then. But I can just recall those days now we're in Tier 3.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, Tier 3 is not so bad, because you could be in Tier 3 of the football, which is Sunderland, and that's pretty rough.
I'm in constant tears supporting Newcastle, and usually it's not tears of joy. Keith Roll was the one who jinxed Malcolm. He went, on a lighter note, Malcolm's internet signal looks strong tonight. I'm not a betting man, but I think Malcolm's internet will last until 7 tonight. Unlucky, Keith, you were wrong.
That's what you said, Steve.
Well, yeah, I did as well. I did, yeah. And unfortunately, yeah, Malcolm's gone like Newcastle United this time last night, he said. Here he comes. He's coming back into the green room, just getting ready to let him back in. I know what his face will be like anyway. He'll be spitting feathers over this internet situation that he's got going on. Did anyone have 1840 this week, or Malcolm letting the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Said Paul Oxley. We've got it all again. Here he is. He's back. Welcome back, Malcolm.
Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Keith Rose.
Who's that there? Look, who's joined us?
Keith Rose spoke too soon. He says Malcolm's internet signal looked strong until 1840.
Yeah. It's always
Dave Harris,
1840, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always round about the same time.
Yeah.
It gave us a little bit of time to talk about.
And I've seen all the comments about me dipping out at the same time as Newcastle seem to.
Fantastic. Yeah, we're just talking a little bit about the shows that we've pre-recorded, Malcolm. I mean, we've done, because obviously next week's Christmas Eve and Santa's coming, and we can't do a live show when Santa's coming, and then of course the week after is New Year's Eve. So we've recorded a couple of great shows, haven't we, where you've gone back and looked through your memories of your time with England. And last night, obviously, yesterday we recorded a show about the 76 Cup run. So it's always good to look back, Malcolm, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It certainly is. In fact, just in sort of checking back on that run leading up to the Man City final, that I realised that there was an awful lot that I had forgotten. There's very little that I've forgotten about the 74 Cup run, but the 76, there were quite a few things that had departed me, and so. It was nice going down memory lane on that one, I have to say. Very nice indeed. And that was probably our best Wembley performance. And it was only that overhead.
So, Malcolm.
Ironically, from a Newcastle fan, good heavens above. What irony is that?
I know.
Let's talk a little bit, John, about the news today. I mean, I know you hadn't really read about it, you or Malcolm, so I had to read it to you beforehand. But the Premier League extending their deal with BN Sports was announced today. Richard Masters putting out a couple of lines about that, and delighted to be working with them. There seems to be plenty of movement, behind the scenes and things going on. And Nick DeMarco and the Newcastle Supporters Consortium are still working away feverishly with their legal battles. There seems to be a thawing of relationships between Saudi and Qatar. I'm still very confident that this is going to go through. I'm not sure when. I think I've said this a couple of times now, but I feel that 2021 we will see new owners at Newcastle United, but we're just going to have to be patient, and this just seems like another step in the right direction. Saudi seem to be willing to work with Qatar now, and I don't think Saudi were that bothered about TV rights. I think they just want to buy a football club in the Premier League and start the building process at Newcastle.
Yeah, I
mean, we've got to keep hoping. We've got to keep hoping, Malcolm, that something's going to become of this, because the one thing was certain, as we're about to leave a horrendous year, 2020, with the pandemic, and going to a new year, we have all the optimism, all the hope. Like, first of all, Newcastle have got to stay up. Wouldn't it be nice if they do something in one of the cups? We're going to find out that in the next short space of time. And then we've got to have a change of ownership. There's absolutely no question. Before hope genuinely resides on Tyneside, we've got to have Mike Ashley leave and someone take over. And that someone still is the package that was been before us for an awful long time. And we've got to hope that they stay with us and the Premier League have a change of mind. And this today is another little step in the right direction. I'm just clinging desperately to the hope that something happens, because we ought to be in the same ballpark as Chelsea and Man City, who were taken over by huge money and turned into what they turned into. I mean, before Manchester City were bought by the Saudis, they were not a bigger club than Newcastle United by any means. And why the Saudis didn't take over Newcastle, in fact, they showed some interest, those guys, in doing that, but weren't received too well, and went off and did Manchester City, who then were only the second best team in Manchester, never mind in the country. And when I look at Newcastle, a one city club with fanatical support that has underachieved for years, it is ripe for somebody with money and with huge to move in and turn this into something special. And we're still waiting for that to happen, but I'll never give up hope that is going to happen, because I watched Newcastle win something in '69. They've won out since, and we'll win nothing again unless it's a fluke, until we have quality new owners in this club.
Yeah, Paul Patterson asks a question there for you, Malcolm. He said, in the past, that there was a former manager of yours told you to have X amount of shots in a half. Do you think Bruce is telling the likes of Joe Linton that in this modern age?
Well, to the latter part of the question, no, I don't. Otherwise, things would be very much different. It was Harry Haslam who said to me about that, and that was when I was actually playing non-league for Tunbridge, and I was playing as a fullback in the Southern League matches on a Saturday, but then we played all sorts of cup competitions through the week, and he would play me up front, and he said, if you're going to score on a regular basis, you have to have a lot more shots than you will have goals. He said, so if you really want to score goals, you've got to have lots and lots of shots. So he said, set yourself a target each half. He said, 6. Aim to have 6 shots. And I stuck to that for the rest of my career. I aimed to have 6 attempts at goal in each half. And if I did that, then I was pretty much going to come off with a goal or 2, and even the odd hat trick. But you know, it comes back down to that sort of old saying that players have used for decades, that if you don't buy a ticket, you'll never win the raffle. And so if you don't shoot, you will never score. And I noticed that part of that question that was being asked was, do you think that Steve Bruce is telling Joe Linton that? No, nobody's ever said anything like that to Joe Linton. And if it was said to him, I'm not sure how he would react to it, whether it would make a difference to his thinking. But you look at the lad who's scoring all the goals for Newcastle at the moment. He's got that kind of mentality, and players a lot of other players in the team, they should be made aware of what that guy is capable of doing, and they should be working their socks off to get the ball to him more often. But they're not. They're not thinking about it, you know. And the midfield drops too deep because the back 4 or 5 have dropped too deep. And in the end, he's stuck up there all on his own. And you've got to have a lot of support coming, to give you the ball, most certainly, and nobody's near enough to do that. Joe Linton, he doesn't think it at all. Just doesn't think it. And one thing that I really do not understand in the modern game, a manager employs coaches, and he'll have a goalkeeping coach, a defensive coach, maybe a midfield coach, but they never seem to hire goal-scoring coaches. And goal scoring is the most important part of the game, the most important part. And they don't get in specialist goal people who can score goals. Nobody ever employed Jimmy Greaves. Nobody has ever said to Alan Shearer, come and work with our kids, show them how to do it. Work with the seniors as well. Ian Rush, another one. You know, and these guys, they have so much in which to offer, but it's a whole load of invaluable experience that goes to waste.
Mal, did just that question from Phil B. He's been watching the big match, which of course gets played, I think, on ITV2. Mac returns to Luton. You tried a shot from the kickoff. He says, did you score one like that once before? It might have been a friendly.
Yes, I I scored. It was a pre-season friendly with Newcastle. We were playing St Johnstone up in Scotland, and they had a foreign. I think it was Scandinavian goalkeeper. And if you remember, well, you won't, Steve, because you missed it. But before a game, goalkeepers would, with the studs of their boots, would make a mark in the very centre of the 6-yard box, so that they knew where the centre of their goal was without looking behind them. They could just look at the 6-yard box and work out where their position in the goal was. And so this guy, he was a big tall lad, and his head was down, and his feet were going like, his foot was making the mark in the turf, and we were lined up, and just about to start, I saw the whistle go into the referee's mouth, and I said, John, just knock it 1.5 yards in front of me. And so he did, and it came onto the left-hand side, and I just absolutely smacked it, and it went flying over, and the keeper's got his head down. He's still making the mark with his boot in the ground, and the ball had sailed over his head and dropped into the net. And from there, the game was a bit of a farce. I think we finished up. I think we won 7-3 or something like that. And I got a hat trick. John Tudor, I think, got a hat trick. And yes, it spoilt the game a bit, but wow, you have to try them. So, and I doubt that a quicker goal could ever be scored. You know, it was literally a direct, powerful shot from the halfway line.
Yeah, good stuff.
How long would that take, John, do you reckon? A second to travel through the air?
Yeah,
how long?
You can't beat that.
Yeah,
you can't beat that. If it was 3 seconds, allowing 2 seconds for the ball travel, it's 3 seconds, and nobody can beat that from a kickoff. And I think, if I remember rightly, didn't you run over to Joe Harvey and said, "I would like to be subbed now, boss. I can come off. I've scored my goal. I can come off now."
We've just got time to show this again, Malcolm. You do have one there, don't you? You've been sent one. John from Q-Tech has sent you one of those T-shirts, the Supermac 9 T-shirts. There we go. So if you want one of these that Malcolm is now modelling.
There we are. Whoops.
Fantastic. Great stuff.
Yeah,
So,
bring it this way. Hold it up. There we go.
Lovely quality it is, I have to say. There we go.
good stuff. So you can get them from NewcastleLegends.com, and could make a nice little gift for Christmas. And I'm modelling the cup, Malcolm.
Yes.
So I've got my cup, which is very nice. So if anybody wants
better from that, I can assure you.
Fantastic. Anybody wants
is
to?
Is that the only cup we're going to see this season?
Sadly, yes.
Only
I think
cup we're going to see this season.
I think so. If anybody, if you've enjoyed the content that we've been given on the channel, please like, please comment, please share. And if you click the little button in the right hand corner, you can now subscribe to the channel by clicking that button. It does help us, and click the likes and all of that. Lads, we've got Fulham at the weekend, so I will ask for your prediction for that. And I'm also going to ask for your prediction against Brentford in the Cup. We've got a quarter-final coming up in the League Cup. So, Malcolm, first to you, prediction for the Fulham game and the Brentford game.
You know, I think this is so difficult to predict with the form that we've seen of Newcastle. Newcastle will score, that's for sure, but it's just whether they can get it sorted out at the back and deny Fulham. I'm going to take Newcastle to win 2-1, but dear, I could have some right egg on my face after 10 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, and Brentford in the Cup, can you see us progressing to the semi-finals?
We should. We absolutely should. You know, Brentford aren't the force that they've been over the last couple of seasons. They're having a little bit of a struggle. this particular season. And so, yeah, Newcastle should see them off, and they should be rubbing their hands to get at Brentford and stick a few goals in the net.
Okay, John, what's your prediction for Fulham?
Interesting. I want to see Almiron back. I want to still start. I want to see Richie play left back and take Jamal Lewis out of the equation, give him a rest. And I don't think we should start with Sean Longstaff. If all those team selections happen in a match Newcastle must win, because I've talked about what's coming afterwards, I'm taking a 1-0, but I wouldn't be surprised at all by a 1-1, but it better be a 1-0. As for Brentford, Newcastle ought to have no excuses. It's a terrific draw. We still have not met a side in getting to the quarterfinals of the League Cup. We've never met a Premier League side yet. I take Newcastle to win 2-0, but aren't we all scared death that Ivan Toney's going to be the winner on that night? Isn't that the nightmare from hell for Newcastle? But let's be optimistic, because what's coming after that is frightening.
Yeah, indeed. I'll join you on 2-0, John. Sorry, I didn't mention the scoreline, but that was what I had in my mind.
Yeah.
Big thanks to you for all sending so many nice comments. Been some really nice comments coming in from everybody, and thanks to you for making some donations towards the channel as well. Much appreciated. That will go towards my New Year shopping spree, lads. Where I'm going to head down here. There's a sale on at the Malcolm McDonald shop. There's a queue there, socially distanced queue, as we can see. I hope that's not a returns queue, though, Malcolm. I hope that's not people taking trousers back.
I thought it'd be a queue to get out.
Lads, it's been an absolute pleasure, and enjoy your couple of weeks off. Enjoy the festive season as much as you can, and please stay safe, lads, and I look forward to welcoming you back in the new year.
That's great. Thank you, Steve, and Merry Christmas to everybody. Do have a wonderful, wonderful time. It's under difficult
Merry Christmas to all the fans.
Great stuff.
May all the fans enjoy it, and a special Merry Christmas to you, Steve, and you, Malcolm. Thanks for your help this year. It's been terrific, and we'll sort it out again in 2021.
We certainly will do.
Good stuff, lads. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Take care, bub.
Talking to myself again.
I'll be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock with the Three Amigos. I don't know what on earth John's thinking of with this poster. It has to be the worst one yet. But yeah, back tomorrow night. And don't forget, we are doing our special campaign this month, and it is simple. Think before you tweet.